Hello everybody, I'm Jana from Sydney Visa. COVID-19 continues to create disruptions all over the world, and in particular this is evident for those who plan to migrate to Australia or travel to Australia. However, in the past few months, the Australian government have made a number of major announcements about Australian immigration policy and access to the Australian borders. So in this video, I would like to summarize the major changes that took place in the last few months. So please watch the video till the end. Here I would like to ask for your support for the channel. If you like the video, please click subscribe button and like button and share it with your friends. So first, let's take a look at the changes related to the access to Australia. Right, so Australia have opened up its borders for the holders of the temporary business visa 188. This is a very positive dynamic, since previously only citizens and PR residents and their immediate family could enter the country. Holders of 188 business visa do not need to seek exemption to travel. All they need to do is to produce the evidence of their visa 188 at the airport. And of course they would need to go through the compulsory quarantine upon their arrival in a designated hotel for 14 days. Another positive change is that seasonal workers who are employed according to the government seasonal worker program or Pacific Labour Theme Agreement can also enter the country without the need for the additional exemption. The list of the exemption categories for travellers that are allowed to enter the country now, but with the relevant permission extended even further, and the following have been included. So the non-citizens with the critical skills or working in the critical sector in Australia. So this potentially can be any visa holders with the profession within the critical skills list. I will touch and talk about the critical skills a little bit further down. Supporting documents from the employer or potential employer are required in order to get that permission to enter the country. Non-citizens sponsored by the employer to work in Australia in an occupation in a priority migration skilled occupation list. So these are the holders of visas 186 and 482 and similar employer sponsored visas that can enter the country. The priority list of occupations is on your screen now, so you can pause and have a look at it. Also allowed to enter the country are students completing year 11 and 12 with the support of the relevant Australian state or territory government health authority and educational department. So this means that the higher school students with student visas can enter the country. Another one is traveling for the compassionate and compelling reasons, and this has always been part of the list, but these are decided case by case basis, and from what we're hearing, more people are being allowed in. We also get lots of questions about partners, right? So the partners of the Australian citizens, whether they can or cannot travel into Australia. So let's talk about partners in a little bit separate detail. So the Department of Immigration states that you can travel to Australia if you are an immediate family member of an Australian citizen or permanent resident. You must provide evidence of your relationship and you must hold a valid visa before you travel. So the immediate family members are the spouse, so husband, wife, a de facto partner, dependent child or legal guardian. So that's it. Parents, brothers, sisters are not included in this list. If you have a partner visa, so which is the subclass 100, 308 or 309, 801 and 820, they are both temporary and permanent visas, and child visa subclasses 101, 102 or 445, you can come into Australia and you don't need to seek an exemption. So you can go to the airport with this visa and you should be allowed onto the plane, provided you can meet the quotas for the plane, but that's a separate conversation. So if you hold a prospective marriage visa, which is a subclass 300, then you would need to seek an exemption and approval to actually travel to Australia.
And these are decided on case-by-case basis. So the intention to marry is not sufficient evidence to demonstrate that you are an immediate family member of an Australian citizen or permanent resident. But you can provide proof of your relationship or evidence that you meet any other individual exemption category. Our client recently entered Australia on visa 300 with a child who was an Australian a child who didn't have an Australian citizenship but was a child of an Australian citizen. So this is just to give you an indication of what sort of evidence you might need to show to prove your relationship. So if you hold another type of temporary visa or not yet hold a visa for Australia at all, but you are an immediate member of a Australian citizen or PR resident, you can still apply for the exemption. So you must provide proof of your relationship, right? Such as your marriage certificate, evidence of your de facto relationship, which could be shared finances or property, your birth certificate or the birth certificate of your children. And these exemptions are granted, but the criteria is very strict. By the way, if you require assistance with an application for travel exemption, please, Sydney Visa can help. Please email us on mail@sydneyvisa.com.au. Also, there are some good news for the students. Student visa holders who were forced to postpone their study due to the restrictions associated with COVID-19 are exempt from visa application fee for the subsequent student visa. So if you got a student visa but couldn't activate it on time due to COVID-19 restrictions, you will need to reapply for a new visa. You won't be granted one automatically, but you will not need to pay the application fee. It will be waived. Many educational institutions have offered remote learning throughout the pandemic, and many students that could not enter or re-enter the country were forced to study online. So I said the good news is that the period of the remote learning can now be included in your Australian study requirement when filing your application for the subsequent graduate 485 visa. So, and by the way, the application for the 485 visa can now be submitted from outside Australia as well. Also, our students are allowed to work more than 24 hours or 20 hours per week, provided that they are employed in a field related to healthcare. Further, federal government announced special visa concessions for holders of Hong Kong passports. So our present and future students from Hong Kong will have the right to apply for a 5-year temporary graduate visa upon the successful completion of their study in Australia. So the maximum duration of this visa for non-Hong Kong passport holders is only 3 years. So it's extended for everybody 3 years, but Hong Kong passport holders can get 5. This visa would also give its holders a path to permanent residency, but the particulars of these arrangements have not yet been published, so stay tuned, and as soon as they are published, we will let you know. So for the last few months, there had been quite a bit of talk about critical skills. So let's take a look what these critical skills are. So critical skills can be understood as occupation skills and professional knowledge that are currently most in demand by the Australian economy. And this includes those that provide so they're providing clinical and specialist medical services, including air ambulance, medical evacuation, and delivering critical medical supplies. Then those are involved in critical skills in maintaining the supply and essential goods and services, and that is again in medical technology, critical infrastructure, telecommunications, engineering and mining, supply chain in agriculture, primary industry, food production, and the maritime industry. Also those that are delivering services in sectors critical to Australian economic recovery, including financial technology, large-scale manufacturing, film, media and television production, and providing critical skills in religious and theology fields as well. So these critical skills are relevant for those that require permission to enter Australia or exit Australian territory as well, or in relation to the federal or the state's skill occupation list.
Occupation ceiling quotas have been announced for 2020-2021 financial year, although we are expecting more changes in late October. So for now, while some quotas have been raised, others have been decreased. For example, accountants took the biggest hit in the occupational ceiling quota. Last year, 2,800 places have been allocated for accountants, while this year the established limit was only 1,000 places, which is almost a three-time decline. And the following professions saw the increase in the occupation ceiling quota. So these are construction managers, engineering managers, mechanical and production, early childhood workers, special school teachers, and university lecturers. An interesting trend is evident, right? So the occupations that are actively supported are those that are related to construction and construction engineering, and this could be due to the fact that in order to stimulate economic growth post the pandemic, government will be spending a considerable chunk of its resources onto large-scale infrastructure and civil projects. So people who have the skills within this sector are in demand by the Australian economy. The states and the territories have received some nomination quotas and are opening their systems for the acceptance of the nomination applications. So ACT have opened up the Canberra matrix for the current financial year. Currently, only ACT residents with the profession from the critical skill list can submit an application into the Canberra matrix. The Canberra's critical skill list is quite extensive and is much wider than the critical skills defined by the federal government. The list includes professions such as sales and marketing manager, finance manager, ICT project manager, and so forth. You see it on the screen. In addition to these professions, the list also includes medical and engineering professionals. To apply for the state nomination visa, which is visa 190, to be nominated by the ACT, you need to have worked in the state for the past 26 weeks full-time, and if you are after regional sponsorship for 9-1 visa, then you will need to have worked in ACT for the past 13 weeks in a full-time position. Tasmania have opened application for skills and business visas. The Tasmanian criteria for the nomination leans on the following priorities. So firstly, to request for the nomination for visa subclass 188 and 132, so business visas are being accepted. So it's open for submission. So the nominations are issued to the professionals from the critical skill list again, and also nominations can be issued to other applications who can demonstrate their ability to contribute significantly to the economic recovery of Tasmania. So that means that if your profession is not on the critical skills list, but you are able to demonstrate that you can help the recovery of the Tasmania and the Tasmanian economy, then you might be considered, which is quite a good opening window for quite a few people. Okay, South Australia, they have moved to a new website, it's called Move to SA, Move to South Australia. The new website provides criteria for the general skill migration and for business visas, and it's worth a note that the application process for South Australian nominations have changed. Previously, applicants submitted the application for the consideration of state nomination directly to the state of South Australia. But now the government of SA moved onto the model whereby an applicant first expresses an interest in Skills Select, nominating South Australia as the preferred sponsor, and then the government of SA will pick the candidates who they're interested in and invite them to submit an application for the nomination. So this is a similar model that New South Wales and the federal government have been using for a while. Also, South Australia have announced that they will be accepting a request for nomination for businessmen and investors, but they will only consider high-quality business migrants due to the limited quota of this visa for the moment. For the last few months, many speculate about the reduction of Australian immigration program, and it's indisputable that following the completion of the pandemic, our world will be different, as well as the priorities of the Australian government. It is not surprising that migration policy will change in favour of those who have skills related to fundamental sectors of the Australian economy that can assist in its economic recovery. So the Global Talent Visa, so GTV, gives a great opportunity to those that have skills in the relevant sectors. It seems that this program will remain the same and will possibly even increase this quota in these quite hard times. So we will be posting a more detailed video about this program in the next few weeks, so please subscribe and click the bell button so you don't miss it. In the meantime, if you believe you might be eligible for the Global Talent Visa, please email us on mail@sydneyvisa.com.au. In the conclusion, I would like to emphasise that despite COVID-19 and its consequences, the Department of Immigration of Australia continues to operate. It continues to consider and issue not only immigration visas but also the temporary visas like student and tourist visas. So of course, currently all visas come with the caveat that its holders would either need an exemption to enter the country or will need to wait until the borders are open. But you must agree it is much more pleasant to expect a partial or full border opening having a visa in hand than having to wait for the borders to open and then submit an application with the wave of the other applicants that have been waiting for this opening. This is it for now. Please subscribe, like the video and share it with your friends. And if you have any questions, ask them in the comment section below or email us on mail@sydneyvisa.com.au. Cheers from down under. Goodbye.